All right, these are the two BMSs that we're going to use for the battery pack builds. These are the JBD AP21S001. These are 6 to 21S 200 amp JBDs built for the lithium iron phosphate battery chemistry. You need to be aware that they do make them for lithium ion and lithium iron phosphate. I ordered these units directly off the JBD website, and they are the models that are designed for the NTC, the UART, and the RS485. So it does come with the temperature sensors, the Bluetooth module, and the touchscreens that come built for these units are a separate item that you need to include if you want those touchscreens. So I did order the touchscreens also, and they are being shipped. And it comes with all the sensor leads and the wiring harnesses for the various configurations. All right, with a lot of BMSs, you will see multiple lugs on the BMS. Now, some of the older versions are single lugs in, single lugs out. The model prior to this had 3 lugs in and out, and you'll see some with 4. This newer auto sensing version only has 2 lugs. Now, with these multiple lug units, the current carrying capacity is split between the various lugs. And this is a 200 amp BMS, and they're splitting the current carrying potential between 2 lugs, so that could be 100 amps and 100 amps in each lug. Now, I'm not going to have that much current flowing through it. I'm going to be topping out at 100 amps most likely for this particular battery build at least. But the bolts that came with it were kind of cheap. They're Phillips head and they just feel cheap. Now, one of the reasons that you might have an advantage with multiple lugs is that these BMSs could be built in a battery pack where there's a lack of space or a tight space where they need to route the wires. And routing multiple small wires is a bit easier than trying to route a larger gauge single wire. For myself, I'm not going to have that problem, so I would actually prefer to run one single larger wire off the BMS as opposed to multiple wires and terminate those multiple wires in a lug. So my thought is, why not jumper these lugs here at the BMS with the bus bar? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get some 110 copper stock and create my own bus bar to jumper these. And what that'll allow me to do is the one single wire that comes off the bus bar, I can use a larger M8 bolt and run one single larger wire off of each of the lugs. So I'm going to go ahead and mock that up and see what that looks like. I've got a copper 110 bar stock. It's 2 inches wide by 6 inches long. These lugs, lug to lug here, is approximately 2.18 inches. I'm going to take that measurement, 2 1/8 inches in this direction, and I'm going to cut this piece in half to give me 2 1-inch bus bars. So these bus bars will connect these 2 lugs. It's going to look something like this. And what I'll do from here is, in the center right here, I'm going to tap in a M8 bolt and run one larger gauge wire off of this bus bar as opposed to running the 2 smaller wires. This is going to be a fixed battery pack, meaning it's not going to be mobile in an RV or in a boat or anything like that. So there's not going to be movement in the pack itself. So I want to try to keep this hole as small as possible, because the larger the hole gets, I start losing metal to metal surface contact here, and I want to minimize that amount of loss. So once that's done, I'll fit these bolts in with some lock washers and torque that down to the specified torque. All right, this is the JBD BMS with the 2 bus bars that I'm using to jumper between the 2 lugs that come on this unit. So I went with an M8 here. These lugs are a little undersized right now. They're just there to kind of show the concept of what I'm doing here by jumpering the B- and the C- lugs, and then having one larger wire come out of the unit itself. One is going to be 280 amp hour pack, and one is going to be 105 amp hour pack. So I'll size these wires accordingly. In the final lockdown of these, I will have lock washers on here, and I will use a dielectric grease. I had thought about tinning these bus bars. I'm still undecided on that. All right, let's take a look at the wiring configuration here for the BMS itself. Now, this is the newer version with the 2 lugs and it's auto sensing. Now, all of the literature on the JBD website shows the older 3 lug version with its wiring diagram. The older version is not auto sensing, and it does show that wires 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, the 14th through the 19th are supposed to be combined together to go to cell 14 positive. Now, I'm not sure because I've seen some people leave these wires either out of the wiring configuration, or some people actually remove these wires. Now, I don't know if the auto sensing version will auto sense and all of these wires are not necessary. So I started trying to do some research and figure out if I need to wire them all together or if I should delete them or leave them out. Now, this BMS may not stay in this battery pack, so I don't want to cut the wire leads. I don't want to shorten them for wiring management, and I just want to ensure that I don't need to really take them out if I'm, possibly planning to move this BMS to another battery pack. So on all the literature that I looked at online, I was able to find some images, and I actually see with the 2 lug version, I do see some people wiring them all together and some people that have deleted some of the wires. So I tried to email JBD multiple times, didn't get any response, and I haven't been able to answer that question. So if anybody has any good answers for that, let me know. What I've decided to do, I believe, and we'll take a look at JBD's website on the computer here, but I'm leaning towards wiring all of these together as this diagram shows into one single lead. Another thing that I was able to find as I started researching this on the computer on JBD's website, I did see some images from users who had purchased this BMS, and I did see some people that are jumpering these B minus and C minuses with a single bus bar and running one single wire off of that. So that's a little bit of a good validation for me that I'm not the only one doing it. So I'm going to go ahead and keep this configuration here, and I'll probably wire it like this. So let's take a look at the website. All right, now that we're on JBD's website, I ordered directly from JBD. It wasn't a reseller. This is the BMS that I purchased. This is they call it the Automized Identity 6 to 21S, and I bought it in this configuration here, which was the 6 to 21S 200 amp for the lithium iron phosphate version. You got to be careful because they do have lithium ion and lithium iron phosphate. So the chemistries are different. Be aware of that. I did order the UART Bluetooth RS485 for the touchscreen. So here are some of the statistics here. Now, if you look, a lot of their imagery shows the old style with the 3 lugs. They do have some images with the 2 lug version here. This is supposed to be the newer one from all of the research that I've seen. So when we take a look at, it's the JBD AP21S001. Now let's go down. So all the literature here that's showing all 3 lugs in this set of literature. We'll go down to take a look at the customer reviews. So I started looking at seeing if the customers had any images that they had shared, and their replies here are filtered by most recent. So these are the most recent 2023, February, March of 2023. Take a look at this one is February of 2023, and we're seeing the 2 lug version here. Take a look at some of these images here. We'll see some configurations that some of the users have done here. Now, if we take a look at this configuration, this is a 14S battery. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. If I go into the 14 string wiring diagram that's provided on the website, it shows for a 14S configuration, it is connecting actually ports 12, 13, 14, and then 15 through 19 on the second one into cell number 12. So that makes sense. If you look at the wiring on this battery itself, cell 12 has a group of wires soldered into that positive of that cell. So that does configure and make sense there. Now, if we go back and take a look at this image here, this is definitely a 48 volt 16S configuration, but this image shows where this person looks like they have deleted some of the wires. There's definitely some wires missing here. It's hard to tell from the image itself where the groups of wires are going because that's as small as the image goes and it cuts this top part off. But this would be cell 1 negative and we're going up to cell 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So this would be cell 14, but it doesn't look like there's a mass of sensors going to 14. So it looks like they did delete some. Now there's another bundle of cables here that looks like it's going to this group here, but that's not for the BMS sensing port. So it kind of leads me to believe that perhaps both methods are acceptable. And in both of these images, this is the newer 2-lug versions. To me, I'm seeing two different methodologies. And if we look again at the 16S, it's talking about connecting the 14th through 19th series, which makes that 14 here through 19 into one wire going into cell 14 positives. Again, I've seen some people just remove some of these, but I am going to group them together like the diagram shows. I'll go ahead and test it, but we'll see if the 3-lug is the exact same as the 2-lug. I believe it would be, but we'll confirm that. I'm kind of documenting this because I wasn't able to get a clear, definitive answer. If anyone has any thoughts or added information that they can share, please do so.